6:30 PM. Call the meeting to order with roll call. We have Michael, Craig Tracy, Anton, Mike Roth, Patrick, our city attorney, and
Kim.
Kim is up there too. I gotta get my glasses on. Chris Hood, our city attorney, and Kim. Okay. Next item will be open forum. Do we have anybody who wants to speak during the open forum, or is this for later in the?
I think they're all here for agenda items.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
That's kind of what I think, yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Moving ahead to item D, approving the consent agenda, approve the minutes of the last meeting, and approve the payments of bills is what we have on the next agenda. Do we have a motion to approve?
I would so
Or
move.
any discussion? We have one motion to approve,
I'll second.
and a second by Anton. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Next item, Resolution 2022-8, Austin Variance.
Yep.
We have two people sitting here that are on the planning commission, so I'm sure you're well aware of what this is all about. So,
Yeah, so I presume you guys have read it over, seen it, you've maybe gone by it.
Yep.
And, yeah, I mean, it speaks to what we were hoping to accomplish, or part of what we were hoping to accomplish with the changes we made earlier in our rules, so that people would do things like have ADUs and that kind of thing, and create more living spaces. So that's great that they're doing it, and in this case, although in this first iteration, the garage is going to be bigger than their house, they are also going to expand the house so that they will be, well, the house will be bigger than that garage, for sure. And that house is pretty darn small. I don't know if you saw that in there.
Yeah.
but- Yeah,
500 and something square feet.
yeah, it was, I thought it was 450, but maybe,
318.
okay, well, the request is by Lori Austin to construct a 896 square foot accessory dwelling
Bus.
unit above a detached garage,
The first one.
which is behind the current dwelling that has a smaller footprint. That's why this variance is needed.
yeah.
And there was a public hearing. There was one public comment that was in support of this, and the commission had discussions, and the findings by the planning commission is to approve this. Any other questions anybody have on, after reading through this?
Michael, can you just update that one more time? So, like, it's a new garage that'll have an
Yeah, it'll have
a
an-
dwelling on top of it?
Yeah,
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So first goes in the new garage.
so the garage with, you know, a place
Yeah,
above
on the
it.
top.
Yeah,
And then at some point, they're either removing, replacing, or adding to that little house.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, later on. So then, like, if they had built the house first, this wouldn't even have come to us at all.
Correct.
Because by all other dimensions, they're where they should be.
Because our rule is, right, that it's not more than 1,000 square feet or larger than the structure.
Yeah,
Well, I think probably when that language was written, that's kind of what you mentioned, Mike, was that the, 1,000 square feet is a assumption for house size. That seemed fine, but, anyway, yeah.
Yeah.
So that, but they're obviously with a 500 and something square foot. I don't know why that number sticks in my head. I thought it was pretty small.
yeah, it is.
Oh,
And so one of the things we talked about too was, is that do we want to keep that language with the 1,000 as a max, or not larger than, because here's the first time we've had an ADU application and they've had to come in and get a
Get a
variance.
yeah.
Right,
But I think we decided that actually it seems like a good process, right? To make, somebody doesn't come in and build a 24, whatever, a 10,000 square foot, building on a, or that would go through the process, right? To see if
Right.
it meets all the criteria. So we decided not to mess with the language, right?
And
Yeah.
it's not the first
ADU?
permitted ADU, it's just the first one that needed to come through special permission.
Oh.
We've actually had others, and there are others that predated the ordinance change
Language.
as well.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
we actually got those questions from folks after this went through the public hearing, is, well, is this the first one that we've had?
Yeah.
Not exactly, it's still a
Okay.
good story, though.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know. Yeah, I thought that was.
Yeah.
And- So this is an aside, because it's not really, just out of curiosity, so this has been rental property for like ever. So are they thinking it would still be rental property, but it'd be like two separate rentals, obviously, then?
I guess she didn't divulge how that was gonna shake out, but that was my understanding, at
Yeah,
least. She
I think
didn't,
that's their intent, yeah.
yeah, she didn't say it explicitly, but yeah, that seems likely.
Okay.
And it's nice, I mean, variances, there's reasons for variances, and one of the good reasons is the fact that, you know, we want to make sure that, like, criteria one, the variance is in harmony with the purpose and intent of the
Yeah.
ordinance, and that's, you know, looking at the neighbors, looking at the neighborhood, making sure that we're not allowing something that's obviously visually doesn't fit. So, I mean, it's kind of nice to be able to, not that you got to pick and choose what's right and wrong, but it has to meet certain criteria, and
Yeah.
that's what this project has done, so
Yeah.
I think it's, I think it's fine. Anybody else have any questions they want to discuss? Then we need a motion to approve Resolution 2022-8, the Austin variance.
I would move Resolution 2022-08.
Okay, we have a motion to approve by Michael.
I'll second.
We have a second by Anton. Let's have a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is the upcoming 31st Annual Art Festival that is scheduled for July 9th and 10th, Saturday and Sunday. It will be located at the Independent School District 166 parking lots. Looks like it's, we're not in a COVID time, so it's kind of nice. We can actually bring in music and add food vendors along with all the artists, approximately 80. And in this packet, they have provided us with a layout of the YMCA parking lot and the school parking lot. Anybody have any, if you read down the bullet points there, I know with the food, that was a question a few years ago when we talked about trash removal. We didn't have food to worry about last year. This year we do, so I guess that might be a topic that might get discussed and how that's gonna get handled. Other than that, anybody have any other dialogue?
Is that different when it sits on city property like it used to versus being up at the school? Does that make a difference in garbage collection?
I think that's what the conversation was last time.
Yeah, like I think we were,
But I don't know what, if I recall,
I don't know how it worked out. I don't know if there's any
That was my
complaints, if
question
things
is-
worked okay, and I didn't really follow
yeah,
up.
I don't remember how it worked out.
Without food vendors, it wasn't a problem.
Okay,
There's more cans that'll need to be collected more often, and
Yeah.
we've got some concerns about that.
Okay.
that
So-
was, go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say, so is that still a city obligation?
well, it's a
When it sits
request,
on the
it's a,
They're
re-
asking you.
it's a
Just a
request,
request,
it's a
okay.
request by them,
To
So,
have this as-
yeah.
Okay, that was the
Yep.
part I didn't get in this
yep,
Yeah.
bullet point part, okay.
yep.
And our policies moved around a little bit on it. For, pre-COVID, for a long time, it was the council would request that whoever's putting on the event deal with trash from the event, deal with additional public restrooms, deal with parking for their vendors, deal with some of those issues that are just specific to the operations of the event. But there's been some level of involvement from the city in all of those issues in one way or another. So it's not clear to me that's still what our policy is, or how it would apply in this case, since it's not downtown and we don't have any cans up there and we don't do any trash collection up there, except for this event.
This event.
So when it was just a couple of cans and there weren't any food vendors, we still had concerns, but it wasn't a problem. We were
Okay.
able to do it. If we've got to add that, multiple times a day, it'll take some resources.
Can I interject?
Please.
Go ahead.
You can come forward.
Come up and introduce yourself, thank you.
I'm Lynn Salisbury, the event coordinator for the event. So, a couple of things I just want to call to your attention. We have 4 food vendors. They're all locals. Bad Seed, Crooked Spoon, Fisherman's Daughter, and Crosby Bakery. So really, it's a matter of those 4 food vendors will need more garbage cans. We will need more garbage pickup, but you'll be supporting your local food vendors as well as an event that historically has brought in $1 to $2 million into the community. And we expect that our attendance this year will increase back up to pre-pandemic levels, which in the past has been about 10,000. Last year we were at 5, guesstimating maybe between 7,500 and 10,000 people will attend the event this year.
Okay.
So the other, is the hanging street banner, is that the one down by the Java Moose? Or is there a different one?
Yeah, and we just met about that. We're going to have a different placement for the street banner this year. It'll probably be up at ISD 166. We are going to have some flag banners that we'll be putting along the boulevard up Broadway, directing people from downtown so they can find our location, because there's not a detour this year going by the school.
So my question though is because that's one of the asks of the city is to hang the street banner?
No, so
Okay.
actually that's a
That's-
moot point
okay.
now.
Oh,
Right.
All right.
Just want to make sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was some thought of, could we put light pole banners up Broadway, but we don't have any light poles or
Right.
hangers on Broadway, so
Okay.
they went a different direction.
Awesome.
Yep.
Yes, so going back to the fact that we're not on city property, and before, if you're downtown and you've already got garbage cans sitting out, like, where are these garbage cans coming from? We're not removing garbage cans. Do we have extra garbage cans? Do you supply extra garbage cans? Do you guys need to put a dumpster in there? I know the school has a dumpster. That many more people and that much food will be a lot more garbage.
Yeah.
So,
That's what we think.
I don't,
getting
It's a
back
2-day.
to what you mentioned about Fisherman's Picnic in bathrooms and our other conversation, we do need to have a consistency here, because we've said no to the Lions somewhat about they want assistance with more help with bathrooms, which they have been covering the cost of that in the past. So now we have another event and they're asking for something similar and more. So we do have to kind of come up with a criteria
Right.
to address this. And it is different when it's not on city property.
Well, and particularly when it's not in a location that we're currently servicing.
Yeah.
There's really not any difference in between a request like this and having them pay someone else to do this and then asking us to reimburse them. This is new time and resources that we don't currently have. We won't be up there, we don't have cans up there. It'll take additional staff time to go and service it.
I mean, knowing the school has dumpsters up there, is that something it makes more sense to work with the school on? Or no? I mean, it's a lot easier to put some cans up and throw them in their dumpster, which I'm assuming is more empty in the summer at night, than it is to have us go up there and I don't know, I'm thinking out loud here.
No, I think that's.
Calling it, like, yeah.
But I don't
makes
think it would
sense.
be hard to get an additional dumpster placed up there too, in wherever would be convenient.
Except I don't think we have a space for an additional dumpster because we're using some of the space right now close to the school for our food vendors who will need electricity. So,
And does that block the present dumpster that's there?
I think they're behind the school. That's where they used to be.
yeah,
No, they got.
There's
Yeah,
a-
there's one on that.
Oh, yeah,
side.
there's one by the
By the
ACA
theater.
entry, and
Yeah.
then there's another one, I think, on the other side of the school.
Yeah, right.
As a dog walker.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm sorry. So are you blocking that one on, that's right behind the ACA?
so the one that's, the space, we're using the space right behind the ACA, that's a little parking area for food vendors. And then we're also using some of the front of this other side, I call it the west lot, the front side of that building for some of the food vendors, near where WTIP is set up on that map.
Okay.
I was looking at this
Oh,
from
yeah,
the
food
wrong
truck.
direction.
Okay. Right.
West side, wait a second. WTIP is by the school.
Yeah, they have to have access to electricity and Wi-Fi equipment.
Sure.
So.
So we had, it's, I'm trying to recall back, so I don't think we had any issue with getting barriers up. I'm just kind of going through the bullet point list just to make sure we
No.
did everything.
Yep.
Right, that didn't seem to be an issue, because those
We
can be
actually
brought
just
up.
put barriers up there that could be set up.
That's what I mean, yeah,
whenever
like
the
we delivered
operators
them and
needed
then
them.
picked
Yep.
them up on.
And then we set 'em up.
Yep.
Okay. Supply.
Do we have crosswalk flags and cones? Like, is that, who does that on the highway? Well, used to do it on the highway.
So we worked with Andrea Orist last year, and she brought up the cones and the flags.
So that's not us, right?
I don't think we did anything with that.
No.
That
The
I
is
only-
certainly talked with Andrea though.
The county?
If she needs us to do something.
The other thing we talked about last year, Mike, was, I don't know if you repainted the crosswalks?
We do, I think, pretty much every year.
Okay.
What happens at radio waves for garbage and recycling? I'm just trying to get an example of how that, an example handles. I guess that's
Yeah.
city property, but so maybe that's not a good example.
Right.
So, I guess I would, so if we provided, if it's a matter of cans, I don't think that, maybe you can have fewer cans, but then you need more service. That's the issue, I think, right? So or you have greater number of cans and less amount of service, potentially.
Well,
tough,
it's
you
a big
know,
area, so I think
It
you
is.
want to have cans.
Yeah.
And just because you have more cans, you don't necessarily, they're not gonna be evenly used.
No, right, I know,
Right.
but yes,
Yeah.
I agree. So what I was getting at was, so we can take care of barriers, because that seemed to work last time, at least getting them up there for you guys to set up. Is it hard for you to coordinate with Andrea on the flag things, or is it just as
If she
easy
did
for-
something before, I'm sure we could recreate that.
Okay, so we could coordinate that. Can we spare 10 to 12 cans up there?
Seemed like we did. What did we do last year? Because it seemed like it was something.
I thought it was like 4 to 6 cans last year.
Yeah.
Maybe
Okay.
it was only even 4. And we only checked them twice a day, and it wasn't really an issue.
But now,
Well,
as you just said, you're expecting a lot more people, and now you're gonna have food. So it's either and more cans and more
Well-
checks, unless someone in your group can go around and empty cans and use a dumpster to pop them into, is another way to.
Well,
That-
another question would be if
If they
And
get-
Mike, you and I talked about this earlier, the possibility of if you provide the cans and you provide pickup at certain times during the day, if we had volunteers that pulled garbages as they filled and staged them in an area for your people to pick up.
That'd be easier.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was getting through, going through this list, is the more the idea of like providing the resource in like tangible goods like barriers and cans, and less on the side of maybe trying to have to draw straws on which volunteer has to do garbage rotation. And then working on what that means for whether we take it and haul it back to a dumpster that we have off-site, or if at that point, then it's like, why even involve us and just
Exactly.
do a dumpster up there?
Yeah.
That,
I can think of a couple of places that would fit.
Yeah,
Wouldn't be
there's-
in the way, but it'd be close by. I mean,
Yeah.
you could
Plenty
go
of
right
places
across
to put
on the way
dumpsters.
towards the woods, you could put it close to the playground, you could, I mean, there's a few spots where I think you could tuck a couple yard dumpster and it would be enough.
That's, although that is an expense we haven't budgeted for.
well, we haven't budgeted, yeah, we haven't budgeted for that, nor have we budgeted for labor to go up and pick that stuff. So,
I don't think the expensive, I mean, it's a 2-day event. I'm just kind of calculating what food vendors produce. It just seems kind of funny to me that the food vendors should realize that they probably need a garbage can for themselves. So is that something that they're going to take care of their own garbage, or,
I don't think that.
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
I
I'm
mean,
saying,
you said
I don't
you-
know, what is the situation with Crooked Spoon and Bad Seed downtown during the summer?
They are very well behaved, so I hope
But do
they
they-
would continue that. That's not, when we get some food vendors at Fish Pick, some of them find a can anywhere, and we end up in the morning with a bunch of packaging from somebody's wholesale food operation,
Right.
grease dumped on the ground, so that hasn't been the case with our regular local food vendors. They've got some other resources, I would assume, and yet, that's an issue that we have with just food vendors in general. Do they handle their own trash even? That's even worse than,
Right, there's a going into a
Right.
city can.
Yeah.
I know. It's like, yeah.
Yeah, there's a difference between an existing business like the Crooked Spoon knowing what they need for their operation and someone who just comes in and does and leaves again.
Yeah.
I mean, they're not comparable.
well, yeah, I mean, I guess I just was trying to come up with, can we say that we're okay with barriers? Can we say that we're okay contacting Andrea to help coordinate that for flags and cones at the crosswalks? Can we figure out what we can spare for cans?
I'm sure we can come up with 8 cans.
Yep. Okay.
Far easier than we can come up with people to.
People to
go
dump
and
them,
deal.
yeah, on a weekend, yeah.
I just, to me, this is part of an event cost, and to me, it would be more efficient to have a dumpster than to have these people in and out. I mean, they have to be emptied throughout the day, but then to have them hauled, just like you said, Craig, it's only a couple of days a dumpster can sit there.
Yeah, you put a 2-yard dumpster up there, it gets
Space
dumps
for
maybe
it.
twice, and then maybe at the end of Sunday when everybody wraps up and leaves, so you might have 3 dumps. Providing the vendors recycle their cardboard and that kind of stuff, which I'm sure they probably will. These are
Yeah.
local people that do that anyway.
Yeah.
So, I mean, at the most, you're probably looking at 3 dumps at, whatever, $150, $200. I'm just throwing numbers out there, but I've been in the business for 20 years, so I'm kind of thinking that's probably what it'd cost you.
Yeah.
It's not a major thing, but it's just who's gonna pay that? I mean,
Well, and some is just logistics. It's one thing then on a busy weekend then to have our crews out again.
Right.
As opposed to the efficiency of just volunteers within your organization getting it to the dumpster. That's a lot easier to handle, and then someone else can literally, you paying them to come and take care of it at not that much of a cost. This seems more efficient. And it gets back to the whole thing of we need a good policy for all these kinds of events. If we don't, clear understanding of who's doing what, because we do host a lot of events in this community.
Now, are there bathrooms going to be up there, or is that inside?
We have porta potties.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. Wasn't sure if the school was open on that
We use the
backside.
ACA bathrooms for the artists.
Okay. Okay.
Would it be worth reaching out to the school to see about their existing dumpsters or what their existing schedule is? Because I would imagine this time of year their dumpster, you know, but then they'll be kind of quiet. They're not kids in school.
Lila, our director, has been in contact working with the superintendent. So that was something that we talked about a little bit last year. We didn't go that route because we didn't have as much garbage. We'd have to see if the school would let us use the dumpster and then what they would charge us. So, yep.
Might I suggest, I mean, if that, there used to be a 4-yard dumpster by the ACA back door there. If that is still there, chances are that's probably dumped before the weekend with the local route. And if it's empty, you guys would have an empty 4-yard can for the whole weekend, which I think that would take care of a lot of your trash, just right there, without having to haul it anywhere, other than from the can to the, you know, if we provide the cans, and, I mean, you could, I don't know, I'm just trying to
Yeah.
figure out what you guys think.
That's basically what I'm
Make it easy.
suggesting.
Huh?
That's what I'm suggesting.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be
Yeah.
easy. You don't have to haul it anywhere, put it in there, and then it gets dumped on Monday, and whatever that bill is, I guess we can decide if we, you know, want to provide that to the art festival or not, or let it be built in for the food vendors. That's up to you guys, how you handle the food vendors.
One of our other considerations is that volunteers have been down because of the pandemic, and people aren't jumping right back in right away. So we know that our volunteer numbers will be down.
Okay.
And so that's also another reason why we're asking for garbage pickup.
Well, I'm fine making I'm fine taking care of, like, having the city deal with the top 3 agenda or items on here, the barriers, the crosswalk flags through Andrea, and providing cans. And if we have 10, then I think we give them 10. And I think, I mean, it's in July, so we got a little bit of time, but maybe you can try and see what the school superintendent has to say. I mean, if there's, I'd assume that if you checked out the rec park, that's where park staff is the people that would be dealing with that, or would it be like street staff, maintenance staff?
Well, not sure yet. Probably park staff, but
I would
could be
assume that-
both.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so I would assume that,
pretty busy July.
and not just up there, there'll be certainly people up there, but if those people are up there, then they're also down here, which
Yeah.
means there's more work for them to do downtown. So, I'd at least, maybe if you could ask that question and see what they have to say on that. But I mean, if that's just my stance on the bullet points there. I don't know what everybody else thinks, but.
Yeah, just go back and work it out, figure what you can do, you know. And volunteers are always what make things work, so maybe that's, you know, and people are coming back, you're right.
Yeah.
And you'll certainly have a lot of people at your event, but maybe that's part of, yeah, go have some more conversation about it, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay, so, do we need a motion on this, or is this just something we're agreeing?
I'm hearing you loud and clear.
Okay, all right, so you understand what,
Yeah.
so I think it's a consensus that we're all approving the first 3. The garbage pickup throughout the weekend is something that maybe we'd like to get a little bit more details on it if it's, there's a way to make it work easier up there, I think, and keep it there without having to disperse a lot of labor to go up there and monitor it all the time.
I think that if there was potentially one of those scenarios was volunteers would gather it and then somebody, we'd come and pick it up, I just think just eliminate us from that step.
Yeah.
And, hopefully the school, maybe ask this, I don't know what the arrangements are with the, where it's set and what the arrangements are with the school and the contribution financially or whatever it is, or just them volunteering that space, but, we want to, I think it's a good event, obviously, for the community, and I think it's important, and I think that it's, we can kind of do that part, and, that just maybe ask that one more thing of the school and see what they have to say about the dumpster.
Yep. If it's possible to get as many garbage cans as possible, that would be the helpful thing. 8 to 10 would be great.
Okay.
Awesome.
Fair enough.
All right, well, thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks a
Thanks,
lot.
Lynn, appreciate it.
I think everyone's looking forward to this again.
Yeah, it'll be fun.
Yeah, sounds like it'll be a really neat event with more food and more music.
The next item
Nice little-
on the agenda is Go Dog North. Do we have, introduce, I guess just a little background, they've been pretty busy generating money for this development for the dog park proposal, and from what I am reading here, it looks like they are going to maybe not do this in 2 phases, but try to do it all in 1 phase. And so that's why you're here.
That's why we're here.
Thank you.
Yeah, so just a quick update. I don't know how many of you had a chance to read the little proposal here, but it was a little shy of a year ago that we came and asked to go ahead and start fundraising for the park. And we were given the blessing to do so, and we have been really pleasantly surprised at how well it's gone the last 10, 11 months. Really, most of the funds were raised in about 9 or 10 months. We exceeded our goal for the 1 acre park much faster than we realized we could do. And so about a month or so ago, we kind of wheeled back and took another look at this and thought, we're going to save a lot of money if we do this in 1 shot instead of 2. Because essentially we're going to be, putting in not as much fence to do a larger area so it's way more efficient to do it all in 1 shot. So, I think we have about $20,000 to raise to be able to do the full, both phases of the park. And so I think today the big ask we're making of you all is if you could okay us going ahead and moving into phase 2 and adding an additional 2 acres to the 1 acre phase 1 that we had already laid out. And it kind of is depicted in your map there as best I could draw it with technology. It's a little, it is to scale, it's all, that western line could move a little bit, but that's pretty close to what we're proposing.
So I understand, so the initial phase was the blue, obviously would have been a rectangle, right, not
Yep.
a U shape, so it would be
Correct.
closed off. And now it's, and then if you would have done phase 2 later, you just would have eliminated that middle? Or would
Exactly.
you've kept that?
We've gone back and forth. We would ideally would have eliminated it.
Yeah.
I think it makes for a better park to have it more open instead of having just like a little
Yeah,
gate to go through to get into the larger section.
yeah.
So we would be tearing that out and then adding fence elsewhere.
So now, though, are you gonna do both the blue and then the outside perimeter of the red? Or you'd
Yep.
just be like, you'd be hiking through the woods until you got to the red?
You would be doing,
You know what I mean?
basically,
Like, so
you'd
is
be
it the
doing the
whole
whole outside.
perimeter,
Yes,
blue
the
and
whole
red?
outside, blue and red,
Okay.
exactly. Yep.
Awesome.
Sorry, that's not super clear on there.
No, I just wanted to make sure I understood what.
Yep, the blue and the red without the north-south line running down the middle there, like on the west side of the power line.
Gotcha.
So, And this is, again, a part of that Sawtooth Bluff plan. And yeah, we just feel like it's much more fiscally responsible to do it this way. It's more efficient. I think $20,000, if we've got some crowdfunding we haven't even tried yet. We'll probably do another mailing. We've got some event ideas. I actually think we'll come up with it pretty quick. And we've already entered into a contract with the fence company for the original footprint, so we've got money down on that. I think we could probably come up with 20 grand within hopefully 2 months and stay on track to get a park in yet this summer. At the rate we're going right now, we could have the little park in by probably the end of June. It's all about the conditions that we're all probably anxiously awaiting to change
Yeah.
on the ground, so.
Okay.
Did I miss anything, Barb?
No, I don't think so as far as that goes. We met with Mike a couple weeks ago and discussed, what do we have to come to the table with other than money and fencing and parking lot? And so we have to have a way to budget our operating expenses, and that was another impetus for going for the larger property, because we'd like to withhold, some of that money so we can get our insurance and, all of that other stuff. So we figured we'd need to raise money for that anyway. And so if we're going to raise money, let's raise money.
Right.
And there'll be, I think, more enthusiasm for the bigger site than there is for the little site. And also, the addition of a small dog area within there.
Oh,
So,
So that's something that, like, our local veterinarian has asked that we do, and you see it at pretty much every dog park. They've got a small dog area. So we would incorporate that into this next build-out initially, and just, again, do it all in one shot, so we're not bringing fence contractors back here twice. Everything just,
Authorization.
yeah,
Yeah.
saves money.
yep.
So we're trying to do it right the first time.
Right.
Well, it saves money in the long run, right? I mean, which is what you're saying,
That's great.
so.
That's awesome.
so do we have to ask you for an extra 2 acres, or how does that work?
It's their property.
It's your property, okay. It's our property, but,
Well, the folks in the city elected them to speak for.
right, I know, that's why I
We
say
know.
collectively our
We knew.
property, not our property, yeah.
Anybody have any?
And where are we with the agreement?
We've got a framework. We've looked at a number of drafts. Chris
Okay.
provided us of similar type ideas, a lease agreement.
Okay.
There were some open questions still based on our last conversation about would there be any asks of the city to provide services up here? Because at least my initial assumption was we're not doing that for the users.
Right.
That they're going to be required to do their own operating of the space.
Well, my question would be like maintenance, parking lot maintenance, parking lot,
All
snow
maintenance.
plowing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
garbage can,
All maintenance.
Everything.
So who's going to be responsible for maintenance?
Go Dog North Shore.
We
User
are.
groups. That's kind of the whole thing behind everything at Sawtooth Bluff.
Right.
So each one of the user groups that has their kind of, which to me, I think that this is a good opportunity and a relatively simple opportunity for us to kind of get the whole greater idea of how we work with user groups in the Sawtooth Bluff, project. I think I'm super excited for it. I think it's great. I think it has my support, so whatever anybody else thinks.
Okay.
Having used some different dog parks in the metro, what do you guys see as sort of what will it require to kind of keep it up? What kind of things does it take to just, I don't know, maintaining operating it? Like, what do you see as things you need to be doing or have people do? This is more of my just curiosity.
Yeah, kind of like we had been doing for the last, I don't know, since 2013 with the small shared space with the horse park up there. It takes weekly, twice a week volunteers walking around the park and cleaning it up. That's the big thing. So that's, anyone didn't pick up after their dog, that's the big thing that we're watching for. So this park would be wooded, so it'll be a little different, and we'll have trails, and so there'll be some trail maintenance that would be required. So maybe brushing the trails, clearing the trails. I don't anticipate there to be much in the way of infrastructure, but maybe you'd need a boardwalk here and there in some spots. I don't know.
Marshy,
Perhaps
wet.
we would, perhaps we just wouldn't put the trail there, which would be probably the smarter thing to do, but, so, I'm in the business, of trails, so, but, so those would be the big things, and yeah, obviously, we're gonna have to have trash removal on a weekly basis, plowing of the parking lot in the wintertime. Those are probably gonna be the big things. People are mostly pretty good about cleaning up after their dogs and themselves, not leaving trash out there, but there's always, it's like everything. So we, like I say, the last, since 2013, we've been coordinating people to go out and walk around the space. And I think with this park, as Barb said, there's going to be a lot more enthusiasm about it because it's larger, it's wooded, it's more interesting for people, it's more interesting for dogs in general. So I anticipate we're going to have more use than what we had at the other space. And I also think we'll probably get more volunteers because of that.
Yeah.
So I'm not really daunted by the volunteer aspect. I know that some organizations may be having some issues post-pandemic and whatnot. I don't see that. We've had, 250 some contributors to our fundraising campaign. A lot of those people don't even live here, but they just, visit here, is a lot of them. I think we'll be able to keep up with it. I'm not too worried about it.
Do you guys envision putting up a picnic table or anything now? I mean, the ones they would use in the metro, they always had this picnic table or seating area, which frankly became just sort of like a gathering for the people, for the humans. And then the dogs sort of did whatever. It's like, well, aren't you going to play fetch with your dog or anything?
I think given
It's a
that this is a
different thing.
wooded park, the need for any kind of infrastructure like that is probably going to be less. Because, part of what our group is about is promoting active human and dog relationships. So actually engaging with your dog and you walking too. And so,
Yeah.
so that's kind of what we're shooting for. So I know we've talked a little bit about that, and we have had people who have requested that we put benches in. We'll have to be kind of calculated about it. It's not really a priority for us, and it really
Okay.
isn't right away.
Sure.
But there's different user groups out there, or user types. We're going to get a variety. Not everyone's going to do it like me or Barb. But yeah, we that survey we did a few years ago, we did actually get a lot of requests for benches and things like that. So finding a happy medium. I don't really like promoting the congregating and just sitting around on your butt but some people like that. So
Yeah, that was,
yeah,
I only brought it up because that's what I've seen,
yeah,
and it did feel funny. Like,
Yeah.
why are we here if not to
yeah,
play fetch or take the dog for a walk, but whatever.
yeah.
So I just sort of wondered where that stood with you guys.
Some people would argue that that in itself is community building. You
Yeah,
know,
I
it's
think
where
it
people
is.
socialize and,
Yep.
it's again, it's not what I do. So, I think that, maybe a balance is probably the way to go.
Sure.
There's probably a few windfall trees out there too, and you're out clearing trail, you probably could make a couple benches.
Yeah, I'm guessing so.
There you go.
Marco Good has offered to help.
There
and-
you go.
Natural benches.
Yeah, you could just sit on one.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. Just curiosity more than anything.
Good questions, appreciate it.
I mean, you're the brave volunteers to go through this process first. And we're the group that, you're
Yeah.
talking to, and then the next group will have someone else to talk to altogether.
Yeah,
And
we've
we've got this
been,
contract that we're gonna write for them, and it's probably not gonna exist in 5 years because there'll be a whole new group with a whole new contract.
Yeah.
And even as we're talking tonight, I'm thinking about, this isn't exactly what I imagined, and I'm not sure we've got it figured out yet. If this was a bike trail that somebody was gonna build, I think we'd wanna know a lot about what that trail is gonna look like before we said yes. And in this case, we don't know anything about what these trails are gonna look like, so we're gonna have to be writing language in this lease that says either they have to bring us plans if we care, or they just get to cut trails where they want, or I don't know how we're gonna think that stuff through, but.
Well, that was a question I was gonna have until you start talking about trails and wooded, because right away in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, how much is this just getting bulldozed over, and it's gonna be like a football field for dogs to run in?
No.
No, okay,
No.
then when you said trails and wooded, I'm thinking, well, obviously, you're gonna have to do some brushing, you're gonna have to build some trails, but from the person who drives by it in a car, or pickup, or whatever, it's gonna look wooded, it's gonna look, you know.
They'll see the fence.
You'll see the fence.
You'll see the
on
fence,
two
yes, but
sides.
but you'll also see the fact that it's not wide open prairie
Exactly.
area.
So
either,
is this
so.
just George Washington and closer to town kind of thing? Like there'll be a trail that goes through in a loop and the rest of it stays natural? Or is it gonna be sort of half cleared like George Washington is now? Or what are you thinking?
Half cleared,
I'd
like
say-
George
Like all the,
Washington.
you know, they brushed out a whole bunch of empty
Well, they
spaces?
logged it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they
There's a
logged it, but they
logging
also
operation.
like,
I know before
Yeah,
they
but they
logged
did-
it.
They also like
know.
firewise
That was
You're
called
saying like-
understory
like
fuel
park the
reduction.
fire.
Yeah, are we
They
gonna
figured it out.
understory fuel reduct this one?
right, well,
No.
firewise it sort of, I mean, that's kind of what they did up there.
What I
Cut all the
picture-
small stuff.
What I picture, what I picture how this will go is if you've ever been to the school woods, right? Where, like, yeah, there are certainly like main kind of thoroughfares of people that move through that area. But then there's all the areas where the kids go, which not equating like dogs out running around chasing each other with kids out running around chasing each other, but it is kind of,
Yeah.
you know, I mean,
Yeah.
so what this looks like with a kind of a trail, and then in 5 years from now, with, you know, the way that those, almost like the natural meanderings, right, of like where dogs are running off to and doing different things, like I think it'll be a,
Yeah,
Well,
so we need to find
space.
some sort of happy medium between do whatever you want and show us engineered plans for the trail, and every time you want to cut a brush, you gotta get city council permission. Like,
Well, I
I
don't-
don't really want to be in either place,
Right.
but we probably want to be a lot closer to do whatever you want. But I just don't know what that process needs to look like yet, so I'll have to think about that.
Does
So, I mean, I think the trail process is probably something that, well, I could see it going both ways. It could be something that we would maybe want to do before the fence is even in, as we're waiting and raising the last bits of funding. So I could see how that might be actually something we might do sooner than later. I'm sort of thinking out loud here. And maybe just starting out small and not doing a whole lot of trail building right away, because I'm just thinking about our capacity, and we're kind of going from managing a really small space to something quite a bit larger, and we want to make sure that it's within our capacity to do that. So, you know, I don't envision a very, I know 3 acres maybe sounds like a lot, but it's not.
It's not.
It's really
It's a
not
city
a lot.
block, that's how big it is.
I mean, I also picture you've got the fence, which will need to have, you know, what is it, 2 sides of it will be cleared. The woods will have to be cleared to put two sides of the fence in. The south line and the west line. The other north line and the east line will be on the edge of the woods, but the point being, the perimeter of the park itself will be a trail, just by the fence itself. That's gonna be a natural place where people go. Maybe there's one trail in the middle of it that spurs to those, you know, to the fence itself, so that you have some options. But I don't envision a big spaghetti network of trails in a.
That's
in a
not big enough area.
It's a
Well, it's
not
more
a very
maintenance,
big area.
more maintenance for you too,
Ex-
then.
That's
the more
my
you-
point.
Yeah.
We need to be able to do this sustainably, and do it in increments that we can manage. And I don't, you know, personally, we don't want it to be a big spaghetti network of trails. It's confusing for people, even if it is only in a 3-acre little area.
You
So
don't want pincushion recreated?
yeah,
No
it's a
one
spaghetti
can find their
network.
way around pincushion. That's like the big joke.
At least it's not
Go
like Valley
downhill, you
Creek.
get to Lake Superior.
I know,
Never get
I
lost.
know that rule. It's a good one, I always follow it.
We're gonna need to talk to somebody about wetlands too. I'm not in the business of making trails, but I suspect that we have to talk to Mitch about it.
Yeah, and I've talked to him already about the original chunk, and there were no concerns with that piece. And I didn't want to go back and talk to him about this one until I talked to you guys first. But I do know in the past, when there have been issues with trails and wetlands, if you are building a trail through an area that is a wetland, you can just put a boardwalk in. So it's a pretty simple remedy. The big thing is just allowing for that water to still naturally be able to pass and drain as it would. So
Okay.
I don't know that, and again, back to what Barb said earlier, maybe we'll just avoid those areas in terms of trails. High ground is best, so.
So going back to Mike's reference about how do you put this contract with a longer-term vision in mind, is there one thing we, and like you said, people come often on your boards or whatever, might not be you guys in a few years or whatever.
God willing.
I'm not going anywhere, so I don't, yeah.
So is maybe one thing that we don't want to clear cut? Is that one thing we can put in the agreement?
Yes.
That we don't want to see the
Absolutely.
space
Absolutely.
ever clear cut?
That's a lot of the reason why one of the things I liked about the space now is the utility line. Because there are,
It's
that
already-
is an open area.
it's
that
already open.
People who like, if you got dogs who want to rip around in there, you could throw a ball or whatever, that's great. That's all you need, in my opinion. So this is a different kind of park. Yeah, I would love to see that in the language. I have no problem with that. We don't want to mow it down. So, I mean, the point is to have woods. I think most people will find that more interesting, and dogs will certainly.
And the trails are for the people, because the dogs are gonna be
They'll go wherever.
out and about.
Yeah, dogs don't
Yeah,
care.
they don't care. They're not gonna
No.
stay on the boardwalk or whatever, so.
That's the whole point. Go have fun. Okay.
Well, we'll think of a way to describe it in as simple a terms
Okay.
as we can, and we'll see how we do.
Yeah.
So I think what we need now is just an approval for the extra
For the
area.
Go to
Go
the
ahead.
next phase.
combining the phases together.
Yeah.
Okay.
Need a formal motion on that?
Do we need a,
What they're really asking for is something to give them a level of comfort to invest the time and funds in this.
right?
The only real formal approval you can provide is when the lease agreement's in front of you.
Sure.
So, as long as you're all
Well-
saying this sounds like a good idea, nodding your heads, if that's acceptable to them, then I don't think you need to take any other action.
Okay.
If they'd like something a little bit more, you could make a motion to say you, tentatively approve the outline until we get a lease, something like that, but I don't know. It doesn't look to me like there's an issue here.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't see an issue. I just think, in listening to you talk, though, you want a finalized lease agreement before anything gets started up there. Is that? before
That
the-
is the
What is that?
vision,
Okay.
yes. Before there are volunteers operating chainsaws on our property.
Right.
We probably want to have the lease figured out.
Okay, so.
Yeah.
I think we
so-
can do it. I think we're 3/4 of the way there with the
Okay.
draft. I was just kind of waiting to see what this was going to look like before I
Okay.
sent them another version of it, so
Okay.
now I think we're ready to move forward.
Oh, I have one other
Okay.
question. Lighting, are you putting lighting in?
You weren't going to, no.
Mm-mm.
Thank you. That's my question.
Hours of operation? I mean, that's up to you guys.
Daylight,
Huh? Morning to?
daylight.
Daylight to day?
I actually don't really care. I mean,
Okay.
I'm thinking about winter, and I think people are gonna be in there in the winter, and it gets dark at 4:30 in the afternoon here.
Yeah.
People will go out and wanna walk after work and snowshoe, and,
That'll be headlamp time.
I think it'll be
Yeah.
actually really cool.
I like a little moonlight walk in the forest. That's
So,
nice.
I don't know, I think it could be kinda neat. But it is one of those things, like, kind of along the lines, we've talked about what our signage is gonna say and the disclaimers, and use at your own risk, and, these are some of the things that
Well,
we're
your
gonna need to address.
Insurance company's gonna
And-
require you to
Exactly.
post certain things, I'm sure.
Well, there's
Exactly.
kind of boilerplate language, and the state has strict liability dog, or laws for dog owners. So if your dog is involved in a
Right.
incident, it's all on the dog owner.
Okay.
So, there's, yeah. But,
That covers a good half of the things that could happen up there.
Yeah.
yeah,
Well,
the other half is,
the normal stuff.
Do you have a more detailed idea of what the parking area is gonna end up looking like? Is there a driveway into it, or is that all open to the road? Or
No, it would have, I think we're talking about a 24 to 30-foot curb cut.
Okay.
And so one entrance in, and it would be on the north end of the parking lot.
I see it in your picture.
All right.
Yeah, it's really tough to see there, but that actually that too is scaled. That
Okay.
parking lot is probably a little bigger than what we will end up doing. That's what we
Yeah,
got
who
quoted
knows?
for,
30 by 100?
30 by 100, and we've been having some debate as to whether or not that, we need that much.
But you'll have one access point going in?
Correct, yes.
Okay.
And
Yep.
you've already talked to the county engineer?
Yes.
I mean, there's a permit that they're gonna make you get for the
Correct,
driveway?
the road
Yeah.
use permit, yep. And
Okay.
I just literally emailed Robbie last week about that, so we'll get that permit going. I'm assuming I'm gonna need maybe a blessing from you or something, I don't know, maybe not.
That's a county,
County road.
Yeah, I don't know, if
County
maybe because
road.
it was,
It's our property.
Well,
So,
we're in the right of way.
If he needs to know.
we
that we're-
may need to
Yeah.
apply for that permit. Not?
I think they'll be able to.
Because it's our,
I mean, it seemed like we could.
it's,
Yeah.
we own the land, though, we're leasing it, so.
Yeah, the driveway's not on the land.
Oh, well,
It's in the right of way, so.
right away,
Yeah.
right. Okay.
But yes, I've talked to Robbie and he's really supportive and he gave us the specs on, how he'd like to see it. And that's why I mentioned the 200 feet from the center line of the gunflint. Because given the, classification of Fifth Avenue West, you need to be a certain distance down for cars turning in and out from
Yeah,
that,
intersection.
from the
Yeah.
intersection.
From the
So-
intersection, yeah.
He guided me, that's where I got the 24 feet. All those are things that the specifications that he gave us to lay it out, so.
Yeah, that was my only concern about this, like wondering which side you were putting your driveway in. And then, like you said, far enough down, because there's just too much traffic there, kind of coming and then you got between the hospital and recycling, that's gonna be a lot of people in and out, so. And you come around that corner, like, are you paying attention?
Yeah, and one thing I think I'm gonna talk to him about is whether or not we want that, right now I showed the entrance or the curb cut on the north end of the parking lot, and whether or not we would wanna move that to the south end. Just to buy ourselves a few more feet of distance from the gunflint.
Yeah.
That'd be, yeah, I hadn't thought about that until you bring that up, so that might be a change.
I love that in the aerial photo, there's a clearly worn path making that turn and a car making that turn.
I know, right?
At the instant that they took the picture.
Yep.
perfect, staged.
Can you get, in gravel parking lot, obviously.
Mhm.
Are you, yeah, I mean, I think it'd be good for us if it's adjoining city property, just to see what that, not that you have to do like a traffic study on or whatever, but even, I'm trying to think of a 30-foot, like how you park in there and actually turn around if you only have one way out, versus like a horseshoe drive, like,
Yeah, 30's actually,
I don't know if you can turn a car around in that.
you can barely. I think 40's probably what you'd want for head-in parking and to be able to pull out. We generally say a parking space is 9 by 20, and then you need maybe 20 to 25 to maneuver, and a larger vehicle would even need more. But there's also a lot of goat trail parking lots out in the woods out here for trailheads that
Oh, yeah, no, I'm
people
not,
figure it out. And
I don't wanna put like undue like burden on it, but if you're gonna go to the trouble of doing it, it'd be like,
Right.
it'd be a bummer if it wasn't, like, if the lot was designed in such a way that, I mean, not well, even like the old Java Moose parking lot, right? Like depending on who got there first,
Yeah.
right? It's just like, what? Like, it's
Yeah.
like we could either get 6 cars in this lot or 2, all depending on who got
Yep.
there first. And so, you know, just in the sense of here, like what if,
Yep.
you know, same type of thing. I don't know. I don't-
Yeah, and for that matter, maybe, you know, being deeper or, you know, longer north-south, that 100 feet would, it doesn't help you backing up, I realize, but just having, you know, being able to spread out more might not be a bad thing, keeping it at this footprint.
It's the snow issue that we gotta
Yeah,
worry about, I think.
I think you're right
mostly,
about that.
so.
yep.
Well,
Push it downhill.
which does lead me
Push
to
it, yeah,
think,
push it
if
to the
you're
lake.
so popular, or it's key times, we're meeting up now with the dogs.
Yep.
Are we gonna need to post on either side that, you know, you aren't gonna be parking?
Oh, on the gun, or on the fifth.
Yeah,
Well,
Well, do you do that
Legally
around?
allowed to be used for parking right now.
Yeah, I mean,
It's a
there's.
parking lane, so
so they can?
they can, just like you can on County Road 7 in front of the school on both sides of the street.
Mhm.
I mean, they park there's a lot of people that park, around the hospital.
Like when the helicopter comes in and that whole.
Is
Yeah,
that what,
they empty
why
out
they
the
flush
lot.
out
Right.
of there?
Yeah.
Yeah, so
probably don't want to promote it because
that's
they can do it, but
Well, yeah, and
It's
then
not
we're
really
getting
safe.
farther up around, you know, in theory, they could be parking up and getting closer to that corner. I don't know, it's a thought then.
Yeah, there should be probably signage, no parking beyond this point
A
or
certain
something like
point,
that,
then.
yeah.
I think it's something that the county engineer will probably have to weigh in on,
Mhm.
and maybe even just decide.
Yeah.
okay. Okay, so do we want to make we have a lot of head nodding going on here, so I mean, I
think
just,
they're- I think they're on board, so.
Okay, I think
we'll put
it's-
a lease agreement in front of you and then in front of them and
okay.
get it going.
okay,
All right.
I agree.
All right,
All right, thank you for your time.
thank
Hey,
you.
All your
thank you for
information.
time. Appreciate it.
Yep,
Thanks
thanks.
for coming, thanks
All right.
for going through the process first.
You bet.
For a long
Yes.
time.
Okay, next on the list are board appointments, and we have two board appointments, one on the EDA and one on the Planning Commission, and that still leaves us with what?
Library.
One
Library board.
open,
Which we thought we had filled, but they actually wanted to be on the Library Friends Board.
okay.
Why couldn't they
It
be on
seems like
both?
that happens all the time. You gotta make the library board as appealing as the library friends board.
Well, I think it's probably more appealing. Except, you know, the freedom of being on the Library Friends, set your own schedule, make your own agendas.
There's friends in the name.
So on,
It does sound really fun, you're right.
yeah, so one board, we have a Mark Shackleton on the EDA board, which term runs through 12/31 of 2026, and the Planning Commission, Brandon Batchelor. Term expires 12/31/2024. So those two people have stepped forward to be on those two boards, which we thank them for doing that.
And
Yeah.
one's in the room, so
Brandon's
you
right
can
here.
take him.
Hey, Brandon.
There's Brandon, thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Thank you for being here, appreciate it.
Thank you, Brian.
Yeah. All right.
Well, I think that's great that we've got folks that are willing. So I would make a motion to approve both appointments, citizen appointments, both to the EDA and the Planning Commission.
I would second that.
Motion to approve, a second. Do we have a vote? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
We'll pass on the good news.
Thanks, Brandon.
Council staff reports. Start with Anton, since you're first in line over there.
Okay. We had EDA meeting last Tuesday. We haven't had another meeting since this meeting. We spoke quite a bit about our concerns or the conversation regarding the change in language to housing in the business park. I think mostly Beth was kind of understood where we were coming from. I don't know if anybody had gotten anything to her, but I went back and watched our discussions that we had on it in the planning commission meeting discussion on it. And I think,
Do you mean the earlier planning commission one? Okay.
yeah, the one where you guys
Yeah.
passed it forward to the council, we sent it back. And I think the biggest thing that we got out of it was really just like a language change, because the language is basically says residential, like that word appears like quite a bit in the ordinance as it was written. And so we, instead of leaving it residential, we were talking about owner and employee housing. Like that idea of, because the primary use still has to be a business, but there isn't really any way for anybody, there is no resource of it, I mean, that we have right now currently to like enforce that, right? Again, that conversation we had that night about somebody being able to build a business and put 3 apartments above it or whatever it is, that would fit, right? Because the business is what's happening downstairs with the apartments upstairs, but they could leave a broom and a snow shovel in the garage and just rent apartments, and then they're like, are they really doing a business? Like, yes, it is helping with housing, right, which we all agree needs to happen, but we don't, I got out of our conversation at the meeting that wasn't what we felt like the intent of the business park was, and more so to try and help solve the issue of actually having housing for people that are trying to have a business up here. So it was, you know, like we talked about the vet clinic, that worked out really good for them with owner occupied, and to the point of now their business has been successful enough where they actually need another veterinarian up here, and they are able to buy a house. So like, you know, but as it's written right now, they can't have somebody, you know, they have to be the one living there, right? It's a perfect example where if he could recruit a veterinarian to come up and actually live there at the clinic, that would fall under kind of what this tweak to the language we're looking at is, versus just like putting it out there as like an open rental for long-term rental to anybody that's looking for long-term rental. Like, you know, I don't know, so that was the clarification that Beth was gonna work on. I think she talked to you again.
Yeah, that's actually the same language we had in the downtown C1 zone for a spell before
No?
it got rewritten, where there was residential use above the first floor by conditional use permit if it was owner or employer occupied.
Hmm.
So we've done it before.
Yeah,
It's an elegant solution, I think.
it seemed like it. Because we're not then eliminating the idea of housing people there, but we're trying to put a little bit better definition on, because there's no way to tie, you know, what is the real business here? Is the real business the business that's got the permit, or is the real business actually just renting, you know, apartments? So this seems like a simpler way to do it, to have it be the employees of the people that work there that are renting the space. Anyway, so we'll see. That got, the whole board wasn't there. Howard, well, we'll have, now that Mark's on, we'll be able to include him in the discussion next month. But we should be able to move that forward, I think, at the next meeting, so which means it'll come to the planning commission, which means in like 2 months' time or so, we might see it here.
In July.
Yeah, sometime in July. Otherwise, I don't know if we had a lot of, you know, we talked about Superior National and how that's going and what the projections are for this year. And I think that was kind of it. Yeah. Oh, actually then, so that's EDA. But I did have somebody call me and ask about the elections for council and mayor. And my question, I guess what what I wanted to get out of that was like, what's the filing, is there a filing deadline? I'm assuming there is, but do we know what it is, or?
I don't know off the top of my head.
Okay.
It's not right now.
Is it the same as like the counties?
I don't think so.
Okay,
No, they have, potentially have primary elections.
Oh,
If they've
okay.
got multiple candidates, more than two. So
Okay.
we don't do that here because we don't have districts. Everybody's at large. Take
Sure.
all comers and you vote for two.
okay,
So I think it's generally September.
yeah, because I think the
Find
county's
areas?
like May, like
Yeah.
end of middle or May, so that's the only thing, I was like, oh shoot, if ours is, we do have something like that, I wanted to make sure that we could get that out there for
Yeah.
anybody that was interested.
But get it out there anyway.
Yeah.
Well, so we just check with Brady, right? Because that's.
It's
his group's
statutory. I'll just look
putting
it up. If
Yeah.
you need a date, I
they're-
can get it for you
They're in charge
next
of the
time.
ballots and getting that information to the state.
Right.
Getting that ready.
Otherwise, that, I think that's all I have.
Trace?
Oh, Michael, I didn't think, did I see it? So I went to Grand Portage for the dedication last Friday. Did I see you there?
Mm.
Didn't double check.
All right.
And Jay and I were there. I didn't like where it capped. It said that it's kind of there for city council or whatever, but just quietly did that, and also just because. But I have to say it was really cool that it was so well attended. And it was really neat to hear everyone's stories and speaking. Just the whole thing was so well done. And the interesting part was between the dedication and the dinner was time and a lot of encouragement of different things, like go over to the monument and see the exhibit there, or go take a hike, which, and not in a flippant way, but we went up to High Falls. And spoke with another couple that we'd seen at the dedication, and whatever, why are you here, or whatever. And it was interesting. He said, I'm a stamp collector, and I go to these dedication ceremonies a lot. And this is one of the best ever that he'd been to. So that was very nice to hear too.
That's awesome.
So, anyways, it was very nice. I did check in to see where our status was with administer position definition and process, and reassured it's in the works. And I thought, this has been a few months, so I've asked and looked to see the response to have a meeting just to status. Because to me, this should have been an immediate, get back with Jay and I and the personnel committee to talk it over and make sure we're on the same plate before you start working on something like this. And it's a plan. Let's make sure. I don't want to get all the way done and only to find out we've somehow missed in some way. So I've asked them to double check on that, to find some time to meet. And then the other thing is, same thing, liquor store. This has been sitting for way too long. It's been quite a few months, no nothing. I know you did your part and ask, and we haven't gotten anything back, right?
I talked to Beth about it a week ago, or this last week.
Anything back? Done?
That she had a conversation, but I think we were waiting for a response.
Okay, good to know. Thank you.
Yeah, but it's still,
Like I said.
I think, time to schedule
Yeah.
a session with you anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been, once again, sitting too long. I guess that's it. Oh, and I ran into Justin up there at the dedication ceremony as well. And so I think our next meeting is July for
North Shore Management.
management board, yeah.
Awesome.
Mhm.
Okay.
Mine was the planning commission.
Oh, you already did it, all right.
Yeah.
We had a Parks and Trail meeting yesterday, and we talked at length about pretty much, well, they haven't met for a couple of months. And of course, that was a staffed position that was helping that group, but right now they don't have a hired person, but they do have funding through the county for a half-time position that we're kind of waffling on whether we want to go into that right now, being so far into the year that we are now or not. But I think the decision is they're going to try to push to try to fill that position, because I think there's a need to try to look at getting some grants, grant writing, looking at what's available out there. And, you know, it seems kind of funny, on the surface when you look at this, like even 3 or 4 years ago when I saw that the county had a Parks and Trail Commission, I kind of wondered, we don't have any parks and we don't own any trails, the county. I mean, really. We have like one public landing on Sag, so I was kind of questioning some of these things, but then you know, you get a list of trails user groups, and we do have a lot of things going on in the woods of our county. Many things going on. You know, hiking, there's Superior Hiking Trail, Keckabek Trail Club, Border Route Trail Association, Boundary Waters Advisory Committee, Chickawauk Museum and Nature Center. Then you go into cross-country skiing, you have Norpine, Bandad, Sugarbush, North Star, Bear Track, North Superior Ski and Run Club. Then Snowmobile, you have Lutz and Superior, or Lutzen, Grand Portage, Cook County Ridge Riders, cycling, you have Superior Cycling Association, Gitchigami Trail Association, Dogs and Horses, where we talked to the Go Dog North, Sawtooth Mountain Riders, and Motorized Miscellaneous, ATV Club, North Shore Riders. So, I mean, we have a long list of user groups, and also a long list of people who come up here that visit our area that use these trails. And what happens then is we got to figure out ways to maintain these trails. And most of these organizations are heavily funded with volunteers. Some of them, there's only 2 of them that collect money. That'd be like maybe cross-country skiing and snowmobile passes. But everything else is funded by volunteers. So we do see a need to raise money to try to keep these things maintained. So we're moving ahead with trying to hire somebody to coordinate, to bring the group of people that are on this board so that these groups can go through us before they come to city council or go to the county board and make requests on certain things. It's just a way to funnel it a little more structured than so scattered, and that's kind of our discussion and how it went. And we have another meeting. Instead of meeting every other month now, we're going to meet the end of May. So we're going to try to go every month to try to help the continuity be a little better. We were missing a few people, though. We were missing a federal forestry representative in the DNR, so hopefully next meeting we have those people on board with us that will help give us more information that we are trying to request. But anyway, it was kind of good to sit and talk it was a 2-hour meeting. but we needed to make up ground, so it was kind of nice.
Well,
That's
think
all I have.
Those are really important examples of what makes this county what it is. It's volunteers. We don't have the
Right.
checkbook to pay
Well-
people to do all this. And I've worked with a
Yeah.
lot of these organizations, just helping them through the store with equipment and donating whatever, right? And a lot of them do come from outside of the county and do a lot up here. And then, of course, there's the people who live here. But that's really what adds value. You know, we wouldn't think of what we wouldn't have without all of these groups, and that's what it really takes to make it up here. To be
And
able to offer
and the
this.
biggest thing that we talked about is like, you know, we always can find money or grants or things like that to construct and build and create. But then once that's all done, you have to maintain this stuff. And the money seems to disappear then. But, you know, that's why you need more effort to go out and research and look at what's available to help maintain these biking trails or snowmobile trails or cross-country ski trails or whatever they are, you know, because it's not just the local people that use these trails. They get used a lot by our visitors, and we have a lot of visitors up here.
Well, and a lot
And
of
so it's
these
important to,
are maintained by people who don't live here but come up here to do that.
right.
So, yeah, it's.
So it was a good
we're
meeting, and
lucky to have
I hope
everyone.
I hope that we get somebody hired, and I'm not sure how that's gonna work, if it's gonna be real positive. It's gonna be tough, but the county did budget a half-time person for this year. I don't know if we're gonna try to seek full-time funding next year or another half-time, I don't know. But I think that there was discussion that maybe the person that gets this job can find funding that actually supplies the salary for doing this. Maybe there might be an option there too, because I know the county is footing the bill on the half funding right now, and it's hard to say. It's just to see where it goes. I don't know, but
I
it
think
would
we
be
all
nice.
got ideas.
Yeah, at least, we can get the ball rolling and try to coordinate a little better, be more coordinated on how we're doing things, and I think that'll be good for the city and the county
Yep.
as a whole, so that's all I have.
Cool.
If that's everything?
Well,
Third,
the next week, we would typically have a planning and zoning meeting and the Public Utilities Commission meeting, but we're not going to have either of them. We have got one of our 3 PUC members isn't here. We were looking at the following week because Southern Minnesota Municipal Power will have their monthly meeting held in Grand Marais this time in May. But since we're going to be short one of our members, we're not going to do our SIMPA orientation, meet with the staff, and instead we'll schedule that for the first week in June.
Okay.
So counselors, you'll also be invited to that if you want to come and sit in with the PUC and have a conversation with the SIMPA staff, just to learn more about what they do and what our relationship is with the organization. The Planning Commission is looking at rescheduling for a different week in May. I won't be here next Wednesday. I'll be at a conference for City Manager Association in Minnesota. And we're still working on our residential in the CI zone language. We don't want to wait till June to pick that up again, so we're going to be contacting folks. Perhaps we already did today about an alternate date in May, and now we got another person to contact as well. I met with the county, a couple of county board members and the administrator yesterday, all by my lonesome, to talk about city-county agreements. It's pretty clear that wasn't the right group of people to make any headway with that. So my recommendation is, and was to them, that really it ought to be, I think at this point, just the whole board talking to the whole council, and probably have to go back to square one where we were when we met as a city council and a county board up in the hospital's meeting room some, 4 years ago. And set some ground rules about what are we trying to accomplish? Why are we talking about these agreements? What are we trying to accomplish? What are the principles we're going to use to craft the deal? We had that all set up, but now we got a lot of new players in the room, and I think we need to make sure those are still the ground rules, or if they've changed, and just get some agreement on that as a group. It's going to be a tough conversation.
Okay.
And enlightening, and positive. Answer some questions.
Yeah, it's going to be, well, we'll end up with a good product that the community will appreciate for many, many years to come, just like we did when these agreements were originally written. And this is difficult conversations, right? But we always also know that it's really just a core of both the city and the county's operating style that we're intermeshed in so many ways. There's probably hundreds of ways that we work together on a regular basis, whether that be just informally or actual contracts that we've written. So that's not going to change.
Right.
Anything else? Nope.
So, one more item. I was hoping to have the whole council here. It's not that big of a deal, but just the bike trails that are on Broadway in Wisconsin. They're painted, and they were placed there in 2004 when those roads were reconstructed. That was actually part of the Gitchigami Trail system as it was planned back then, because it was not cost-effective at that time to put it on Highway 61. It would have required a reconstruction, which just happened. And now there is a multi-use trail on Highway 61. And so the Active Living Steering Committee and the county engineer have been talking about, do we still want to have these bike trails painted on these streets? And they're thinking no. So if you want to be involved in a conversation about that, say something. If you're okay with the way they're going, then that's just what's going to happen.
So wait a second, why is that sitting with that committee and not within some, or is someone on the city in that committee?
We are
Where am I at on
involved in
this?
the committee, but it's really, they're just talking about it as an issue. They're both county roads, so it's really the county engineer's
Oh,
call.
okay. Okay.
you know, whether or not they're gonna happen, but I'm sure he'd be interested in if we had a position that was
Our
strongly
input.
one way or the other. And There's
Sure.
pros and cons about leaving them there, but I think the original purpose of having them there was because the route couldn't continue on Highway 61, and now it is on Highway 61.
But the main thing is that it's county roads.
Yeah,
Yeah. Which gets confusing for everybody, and more
Yeah.
than they really want to know.
absolutely.
Right.
So it'd probably
Certain
be a good
roads.
idea if someone from the city joined into the conversation, just to make sure we're all,
Which of you is the Active Living Steering Committee representative?
Jay,
Might be
Probably-
Jay, I think it's
Probably
Jay.
is it Jay?
he
Yeah.
seems active.
Yeah. So we
True.
meet with them, you know, monthly. But that, they were really just bringing it up as a question. It's a question for the county engineer to make a decision about.
I think we should
If the
keep-
council has a position on it, then you want to talk about it? We can put it on an agenda, have them come here and talk about it?
I mean, I would assume that people that might be riding the Kitchen County Trail might not want to just, they're not probably making their way from Duluth to Canada, right? They might want to come downtown.
Yeah.
and
Well, they do.
And you can,
And you
Just on the
can,
road.
sure.
and you did anyway, and most people just ride in the lane of traffic, and my feeling is, when they get in that bike lane, they have more chance of getting hit by a guy in a door.
Yeah.
That's my perspective of it.
Yeah, it was
I-
always
I
a
don't-
compromise.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a plus and minus thing, but I just,
Yeah.
you know,
I-
the speed limit's so slow around here that I don't think it's dangerous to ride a bike kind of wherever you want to. That's kind of how it's been for the last.
Although it's
I don't know.
awfully controversial, the where is everyone supposed to be conversation. It's
Yeah.
tough.
Yeah. That's the only thing, I mean, I'm not thinking of like me personally, like
Yeah,
but I'm
I
thinking
know.
more like kids and stuff, you know?
Well, they have them like this everywhere, but I just look at the safety thing. A little kid riding down this little bike lane, and it's like car doors, cars backing up.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
There's a,
I see
it's
that.
a discussion that if we want to have it, but where the county's going to make the decision anyway, I guess.
I'm sure they would be interested if you wanted to be actively involved in it, but if not, then
Yeah,
just expect that that will happen.
okay.
Good.
Well, I do think we should be, even though it is a county thing. You know, I get it, it's their decision, but it's just too confusing for people to not understand, you know. We can't be that, like,
Yeah.
oh, this is a county road, you know, it's in the city, we need to
Right.
make sure everyone's kind of contributing.
Would you like to have Robbie invited to an upcoming meeting? He could have a conversation with you about it.
Well, is this something because they want to know if they want to repaint these or maintain them or take them out? Or
I mean, that's pretty much.
That's what
the-
they're asking.
Yeah, I don't think
Okay.
they've been painting that bike lane stripe,
For quite a while.
and it's kind of worn off.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they want to know.
Do you guys want him to come? Are
Okay,
there any other things we can talk to him about while he's here?
You let me know. I'll warn him.
Okay.
well,
Okay.
Whatever.
I'm good
I-
either way, as long as at least Jay participates and then has to come back and tell us, or is it easier just to have him, engineer come and show up and we have, I don't, whichever you think is most efficient use of time.
I guess it depends on what Jay's gonna say, if we have any. Yeah, I mean, if we think,
How about this? I will talk to Jay,
there you go.
and if Jay feels like he has had enough involvement in it that he can represent the conversation at your next meeting, then I won't invite the county engineer. And if he feels like we really haven't been involved that much, then I will invite the county engineer.
Okay.
Fair enough.
Okay, that's
Is that a wrap?
not a wrap. We have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Anton, seconded by Michael. Meeting is adjourned. Our next meeting will be May 11th, I believe.
All right.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Chris.